They made her wed a servant, but he loved her in ways she never imagined. Amina was the youngest daughter of a family that once lived comfortably, surrounded by the warmth of home and the laughter of her siblings. She had grown up in a house filled with the sense of fresh bread baking in the mornings, and the sound of birds chirping outside her window. Every corner of the house held memories, her mother teaching her to sew, her father telling stories of the past, and her siblings sharing secrets late at night. But over time, life began to change. Her father's business started to fail, debts piled up, and her parents grew anxious, worrying about the future of their family. Amina had always been a spirited girl, with dreams that soared higher than the ceiling of her small bedroom. She loved reading and wanted to continue her education, hoping one day to work in a place where she could help others. She imagined herself teaching children, opening her own small school, or maybe writing stories that could make people smile. But as she grew older, she realized that life did not always follow the plans one sets for oneself. Sometimes, it took unexpected turns, and she was about to face one of the biggest surprises of her young life. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the distant hills, casting golden light over the courtyard, Amina's mother called her to sit in the living room. Her mother's voice was calm but carried a weight that immediately made Amina uneasy. She noticed her father sitting with a serious look, and the usually cheerful house seemed unusually quiet. The tension made her stomach twist. She had heard whispers in the house for weeks, but she tried to ignore them, hoping things would somehow remain the same. "Beta," her mother began softly, "it's time we discuss something important." Amina's heart raced. She had a feeling she already knew what was coming, but she forced herself to listen carefully. "Your marriage has been arranged," her mother continued. "He is from a good family, and we believe this will be best for you." Amina blinked in disbelief. The words sounded strange in her ears, as if they belonged to someone else's life. Who is he?" she asked cautiously, trying to hide the shock in her voice. Her father cleared his throat. "Rashid. He works in our household as a servant. He is honest, kind, and hardworking. We believe he will take good care of you." For a moment, Amina could not even speak. The idea that her parents wanted her to marry someone who served in her own house felt like a blow she had not been prepared for. "A servant," she whispered, her voice trembling. I cannot. I don't want this." Her mother reached out and held her hand, her touch gentle but firm. "We know this is hard for you, Beta, but sometimes we must do things we do not understand. Life does not always allow us to follow only our wishes. Rashid is a good man. He respects everyone and will treat you with care." Amina felt a surge of anger mixed with sadness. She wanted to argue, to protest, to make her parents see that she deserved a choice, a life where she could follow her dreams. But at the same time, she knew that her family's worries were real. They were not cruel, they were desperate. The thought of her father's tired face, her mother's quiet sighs, and the fear of losing their home made her chest ache. She felt torn between her own desires and the responsibilities she carried as their daughter. The following days were some of the hardest in Amina's life. She walked through the familiar halls of her home, seeing the same rooms and furniture, but everything felt different. Even the garden, where she had spent countless hours reading books under the shade of the old tree, seemed to remind her of a freedom she was about to lose. Her siblings tried to comfort her, but they were young and did not fully understand the weight of her worries. Meanwhile, Rashid, unaware of the storm brewing in Amina's heart, continued his daily tasks. He swept the floors, cleaned the rooms, and took care of the small details that kept the household running smoothly. He was a man of few words, gentle in his actions and patient in his work. His life had always been simple, filled with responsibilities and hard work, and he never imagined that one day he would be asked to marry the daughter of the family he served. When the news first came to him, he was shocked and nervous. He knew the difference in their worlds, the gap that society would never let him forget. Yet beneath his fears, there was a quiet hope, a wish that he could show Amina the goodness in his heart and the sincerity of his intentions. The day of their first meeting was awkward and tense. Amina wore a plain dress, her hands trembling slightly as she entered the room where Rashid waited. Rashid stood quietly, bowing his head respectfully, unsure of what words to speak. There was a moment of silence as they looked at each other, Amina with uncertainty and resentment, Rashid with a mixture of respect and nervousness. "Hello," Rashid said softly, his voice steady but gentle. I hope we can understand each other." Amina nodded stiffly, unable to find the right words. She felt a wave of emotions, fear, anger, confusion, but also a faint, reluctant curiosity. Who was this man who lived among them but had never really been seen as an equal? Could someone so different ever truly care for her in a way that mattered? She could not answer that question yet, and the uncertainty made her uneasy. Over the next few days, Amina observed Rashid quietly. She noticed how he moved with purpose, how he helped others without expecting praise, and how he treated the household staff with kindness and fairness. Slowly, she began to realize that there was more to him than she had assumed. Yet she still could not bring herself to trust him fully. Her heart was guarded, and every polite gesture he made was met with suspicion. Her parents continued to encourage her to accept the marriage, reminding her that life often brought unexpected paths, and that Rashid's character was far more important than his social standing. They spoke of love not as a feeling that appears instantly, but as a bond built over time through respect, trust, and shared experiences. Amina listened, but she struggled to believe it. Her world had been defined by stories of grand romance, of love at first sight, and now she was being asked to consider a love that began with hesitation and uncertainty. As the days passed, Amina's anger slowly mixed with a strange feeling she could not name. She saw Rashid helping an elderly neighbor with her groceries, patiently teaching a young child to read, and tending to the garden with care and dedication. His life, though simple, carried a dignity and warmth that began to touch her heart. She tried to push these thoughts away, telling herself that she could not possibly love someone she had been forced to marry. Yet a small part of her mind wondered if perhaps she had been wrong to judge him so quickly. At night, Amina often sat by her window, staring at the stars and thinking about the life that lay ahead. She imagined the challenges, the conflicts, and the moments of doubt she would face. And yet, somewhere in the quiet of those nights, she began to feel a faint spark of hope, a hope that perhaps, in time, she might find happiness in a way she had never expected. The first part of Amina and Rashid's story was not about love, not yet. It was about fear, resistance, and the slow recognition of character. It was about two people from very different worlds learning to exist in the same space, uncertain of what the future might hold. And though Amina could not yet see it, the journey ahead would teach her that love could be found in the most unexpected places, in the kindness of a humble heart, and in the patience of someone who chooses to care without expectation. Even as she felt the weight of her new reality pressing down on her, Amina could not help but notice one thing. Rashid's eyes, gentle and sincere, seemed to hold a promise that no one else could offer. It was a promise of respect, of understanding, and perhaps, in time, of love. And though she was not ready to embrace it, the seed of something new had been quietly planted, waiting for the day it might grow. Life after the wedding began with a quiet tension that filled every corner of the house. Amina moved through her new home with a sense of unease, unsure how to act, what to say, and where she truly belonged. The room she had known all her life suddenly felt unfamiliar, like a stage where she was playing a role she had never auditioned for. Each day she reminded herself that this life was not of her choosing. Each day she carried a small flame of hope that somehow she would find a way to keep her dreams alive. Rashid, meanwhile, adapted silently. He knew the distance between them was wide, not just in wealth, but in experience in the world each had grown up in. He was humble, reserved, and patient. Each morning he rose early, performing his duties quietly, never making Amina feel uncomfortable. He swept the floors, arranged the furniture, and even tended to the small garden outside their home, making sure everything looked orderly. But he also watched her from a careful distance, noticing her moods, the tension in her shoulders, and the flicker of frustration that crossed her face when she thought no one was watching. Amina, at first, kept her distance. She refused to speak more than necessary, avoided sharing her thoughts, and treated Rashid with polite indifference. Every gesture he made seemed to irritate her, yet she could not help noticing his quiet consistency. When she spilled tea on the carpet, he calmly helped her clean it. When she struggled to reach a high shelf, he was there without asking, offering his hand. He never commented on her reactions, never complained about the arrangement of their home, and never demanded her attention. At first, Amina interpreted his patience as dullness or perhaps weakness. She told herself that it was impossible to love someone so ordinary, someone so different from what she had imagined for herself. Yet, each small act of kindness, each thoughtful gesture, left a subtle mark on her heart, though she refused to acknowledge it. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. The routine of their life began to form a rhythm, quiet, unspoken, yet strangely comforting. Rashid never tried to rush Amina's affection. He understood that trust could not be demanded, it had to grow. He learned her likes and dislikes, the way she preferred her tea, the books she enjoyed reading, the quiet spot by the window where she liked to sit in the evening. He remembered the little things, and in doing so, he silently built a bridge between them. One afternoon, a small incident began to shift the fragile balance between them. Amina's younger brother, Hamza, who was playful and curious, had climbed the old tree in the courtyard, trying to reach a bird's nest. He lost his footing and fell, injuring his arm badly. Panic gripped Amina as she ran to his side, screaming for help. Rashid was there immediately, lifting Hamza gently and calming him with soft words. He guided Amina through the process of calling the doctor, arranging transport, and preparing the home for the visit. During that stressful day, Amina saw Rashid in a new light. He moved with confidence yet without arrogance. He acted with calmness, kindness, and efficiency. Every action was filled with care, not just for Hamza but for her as well. He did not once scold, complain, or hesitate. For the first time, Amina felt a flicker of admiration for him. She could not explain it, but she noticed the sincerity in his actions, the steadiness in his gaze, and the patience in his voice. After Hamza's injury was treated, Amina sat quietly in the garden, her hands trembling slightly from the adrenaline of the day. Rashid brought her a cup of tea without a word, simply sitting nearby as she collected herself. For a moment they shared silence, but it was a comfortable silence, not the tense one from before. She felt a strange sense of safety in his presence, something she had not expected. The next weeks were marked by small changes in their relationship. Amina began speaking to Rashid more often, though cautiously. She asked questions about his life, about his family, and about his childhood. Rashid answered with honesty, never boasting, never exaggerating, and never seeking approval. His stories were simple, yet filled with warmth, humor, and humility. Amina found herself laughing at his quiet jokes, listening with interest, and even sharing her own stories. It was during these conversations that Amina started noticing the depth of Rashid's character. He was not educated in the way she had imagined a husband might be, but he possessed a wisdom born from life's challenges. He had endured hardships with dignity, cared for others without expectation, and remained true to his values. Amina realized that his world might be different, but it was not lesser. In fact, she began to feel that there was a richness in his life that she had never known, simplicity filled with purpose and meaning. One evening, as the sun set in shades of gold and orange, Amina found herself confiding in Rashid. She spoke about her dreams, the desires she had once held close to her heart, and the fears that weighed on her now. Rashid listened attentively, never interrupting, never judging. He nodded occasionally, offering small words of encouragement, and for the first time, Amina felt truly heard. She realized that he respected her not because he had to, but because he wanted to. That realization began to melt some of the resentment she had carried. Over time, moments like these became more frequent. Rashid would surprise her with small acts of kindness, a warm blanket on a chilly night, fresh flowers from the garden, or quietly helping her complete a task she found difficult. Amina began to notice that her heart responded not to grand gestures, but to these small, consistent signs of care. She started appreciating the thoughtfulness in his actions, realizing that love did not always arrive in dramatic ways. It could be quiet, steady, and patient, building slowly like a river carving its path through stone. Despite these growing feelings, Amina still struggled with doubt. She was aware of the world outside, where wealth, status, and social approval often dictated relationships. She worried about what others would think, what her friends would say, and whether her feelings for Rashid were real or merely convenience. Yet the more time she spent with him, the harder it became to deny the respect, warmth, and subtle affection that had begun to take root in her heart. One rainy afternoon, an event occurred that further deepened their bond. Amina had forgotten an important document at her father's office, and she was distraught about the potential trouble it could cause. Rashid noticed her worry and offered to help. Without hesitation, he ran through the rain to retrieve the papers, returning soaked but smiling gently. He handed her the documents and simply said, "It's done. Don't worry." That simple act, filled with courage and selflessness, left Amina speechless. She realized that Rashid's love was not loud or showy, but it was real, tangible, and unwavering. In the quiet evenings that followed, Amina began reflecting on her feelings. She could not deny the admiration she felt for Rashid, nor the comfort she experienced in his presence. She started seeing him not as a servant, but as a man of integrity, kindness, and depth. Slowly, she allowed herself to imagine a future where she could trust him, rely on him, and perhaps even love him. By the end of the second part of their journey, the relationship between Amina and Rashid had transformed from distance and suspicion to cautious understanding and respect. The foundation for something deeper had been laid, not out of obligation, but through shared experiences, consistent care, and quiet moments of connection. Amina began to see that love was not a sudden spark, but a seed planted through patience, trust, and mutual respect. Life continued, with its daily challenges and small joys, and both of them learned to navigate the delicate balance of their unusual relationship. Rashid never forced her affection, and Amina never pretended to feel something she did not. Instead, they allowed their connection to grow naturally, like two plants bending toward the light, nourished by shared experiences and quiet understanding. In the hearts of both, something new had begun, a gentle warmth, a trust that was not yet love, but something far more important, a recognition of each other's worth and a willingness to care beyond duty or expectation. And though neither could see the future clearly, they both sensed that the path ahead, though uncertain, held the possibility of something truly extraordinary. Life for Amina and Rashid had begun to settle into a rhythm, but it was not without its challenges. Amina had started noticing Rashid in ways she had never allowed herself to before. It was in the quiet moments, the way he would pause and make sure the lamps were lit just right, or how he would always listen when she spoke without rushing her or judging her. She could not yet call it love, but she felt a growing sense of comfort around him, a warmth she had not expected. One morning, Amina's younger brother Hamza became seriously ill. His fever spiked quickly and panic filled the house. Her parents were worried and overwhelmed, trying to manage the situation while also tending to household matters. Amina felt a rush of helplessness. She wanted to do everything herself but could not. Rashid, noticing her distress, stepped in quietly, taking control of small tasks without making a fuss. He prepared a warm bath for Hamza, arranged clean sheets, and even took the time to fetch medicines from the nearby shop. He worked efficiently and calmly, easing the burden on Amina and her family. Watching him move through the chaos with such composure, Amina felt something shift inside her. Rashid was not just doing his duty, he was acting with care and thoughtfulness. His presence made her feel supported in a way she had never experienced. She realized that this was more than simple kindness. It was genuine concern, selfless and steady. For the first time, Amina wondered if perhaps she had misjudged him all along. During those tense hours, Rashid's gentle ways allowed Amina to breathe, to step back and regain control of her own emotions. She noticed small things, the way he would quietly hum while attending to Hamza, the way he would offer her a hand to steady herself when she grew anxious, the patience in his eyes even when things seemed chaotic. She found herself watching him, almost mesmerized, realizing that he had become an anchor in the storm of her life. Once Hamza's fever began to subside, Amina sat with Rashid in the quiet of the evening. She felt exhausted but grateful, and the events of the day had opened a new perspective in her mind. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. Rashid merely nodded, smiling gently as if to say that her gratitude was unnecessary. The gesture was not boastful, it was simply natural. That small smile, full of humility and warmth, left a lasting impression on her. Over the next few weeks, Amina began noticing Rashid in more subtle ways. He would leave a freshly folded towel near her room, remember to prepare her favorite tea without being asked, or simply stand silently by her side when she needed company. Each act was small, almost ordinary, yet it made her feel valued. She began to look forward to these quiet gestures, recognizing the thought behind them. She realized that true care often existed in these unnoticed moments, and that Rashid's life, though simple, was filled with integrity and purpose. One afternoon, Amina found herself facing a personal dilemma. She had been invited to a community event, but felt conflicted about attending. She was unsure how to balance her social obligations with the expectations of her new household life. Rashid noticed her hesitation and gently asked if he could help in any way. She shook her head, unsure how to explain her worries. Yet instead of pushing, he simply said, "I will support your choice, whatever you decide." That simple statement, free of judgment or pressure, made Amina feel seen and respected. She realized that Rashid's love, though quiet, was growing in strength and depth. As time passed, Amina and Rashid began sharing small personal stories. Amina spoke about her dreams of teaching, her love for reading, and her hopes for the future. Rashid, in turn, shared memories of his own childhood, the lessons he had learned, the struggles he had faced, and the little joys that had shaped him. Their conversations were honest and heartfelt, and with each passing day, Amina felt a growing connection that she could no longer ignore. She began to understand that love was not just about grand gestures or social status, but about empathy, trust, and understanding. One evening, during a quiet rain, Amina found herself in the garden, staring at the raindrops as they fell on the leaves. Rashid joined her silently, offering a warm blanket and a comforting presence. She realized, as she looked at him, that she no longer felt the same distance she had at the beginning of their marriage. His calm demeanor, his thoughtful actions, and his unwavering patience had slowly bridged the gap between them. Amina felt a new emotion rising within her, a mixture of admiration, gratitude, and a quiet fondness that she had never allowed herself to feel before. Life's challenges continued to test them. There were days when disagreements arose, when misunderstandings threatened to break the fragile trust they were building. But each time, Rashid approached the situation with respect and patience. He never sought to dominate or control, and Amina began to see the strength in his gentleness. Their relationship was not perfect, but it was real, and the foundation they were laying was stronger than either of them had expected. One day, a neighbor approached Amina with news of a family emergency. Amina felt overwhelmed by the responsibilities, but Rashid immediately offered to help, handling the situation with quiet efficiency. Watching him manage the crisis, Amina realized that love was not just about words. It was about action, about showing up when it mattered most. She began to see that Rashid's affection for her was genuine, consistent, and selfless. Their bond deepened further during these moments of shared responsibility. Amina noticed that Rashid never sought recognition for his efforts. He helped not for praise, but because he genuinely cared. She began to feel a sense of equality in their partnership, recognizing that love was not measured by wealth, education, or social status, but by the way people treated each other with respect and care. Slowly, Amina began to open her heart. She found herself smiling at Rashid's quiet humor, appreciating his thoughtfulness, and even seeking his opinion on matters both large and small. She realized that she had begun to trust him, a trust that had taken months to build but now felt unshakable. This trust became the foundation for deeper feelings, feelings she could no longer ignore. One afternoon, while reading a book in the courtyard, Amina looked up and saw Rashid tending the garden. The sunlight caught his hair and highlighted the gentle determination in his movements. In that moment, she felt a surge of emotion she could not quite name. It was admiration, yes, but it was more than that. It was the first stirring of love, a recognition of the goodness, patience, and devotion that he had shown her day after day. She realized that her heart had begun to shift, and though she was still cautious, she could no longer deny the growing affection she felt. Over the following weeks, their relationship became more natural, more comfortable. They laughed together, shared small moments of joy, and supported each other in ways that felt effortless. Amina found herself appreciating the simplicity and sincerity of Rashid's love, realizing that it was not the grand gestures she had once imagined that mattered, but the quiet, consistent acts of care and respect. As Part 3 comes to a close, Amina had learned to see Rashid not as a servant, but as a man of remarkable character. She had begun to trust him fully, to value his presence, and to feel the first tender stirrings of love. Their bond, built on patience, understanding, and shared experiences, was growing stronger every day. Amina realized that love could take time to bloom, and that sometimes the most extraordinary connections grow in the quiet, ordinary moments of life. By the end of this part, Amina and Rashid had crossed the threshold from distance and cautious respect to trust and early affection. They were beginning to discover the depth of connection possible when love was grounded in care, patience, and sincerity. The journey was far from over, but the foundation for a lasting, meaningful relationship had been firmly laid. Life had begun to change in ways Amina had never imagined. What had once seemed like a forced marriage, a life she had dreaded, was slowly transforming into something warm and comforting. She began to see Rashid not just as a husband, but as a partner in life, someone she could rely on, trust, and in moments of quiet reflection, even admire. The subtle shifts in her feelings surprised her. She found herself smiling at the little things he did. The way he remembered to leave a cup of tea exactly as she liked it. The way he quietly took care of chores she had always thought too small to notice. And the way he listened when she spoke, never interrupting, never judging. It was in these small, ordinary moments that love began to grow. Amina realized that she had spent so much time expecting love to be loud, dramatic, or romantic in a way the stories had taught her. But Rashid's love was different. It was steady, reliable, and gentle, growing not in grand gestures, but in the quiet consistency of his actions. Each day, as she observed him moving through the house with calm purpose, she felt her heart soften. She began to see that love could be patient, humble, and enduring, and that this kind of love was perhaps stronger than anything she had imagined. One morning, the household was filled with a gentle hum of activity. Amina had woken early, her mind restless with thoughts of the day ahead. She found Rashid already in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. The sight of him there, quietly moving with care, brought an unexpected warmth to her chest. She watched as he arranged the plates, carefully making sure everything was ready before anyone else woke. For a moment, she simply stood there, taking in the peacefulness of the scene. She realized that she had come to rely on this calm, steady presence in her life more than she had expected. As the days passed, Amina noticed the small, meaningful ways in which Rashid continued to care for her. One afternoon, she had been feeling unwell, her head aching and her body heavy with fatigue. Rashid, without being asked, prepared a warm bath, brought her a cup of tea with honey, and tucked a blanket around her shoulders as she rested. She watched him move quietly around the room, his attention focused on her comfort. Amina felt a wave of gratitude and something deeper, a sense of being truly valued, seen, and cared for. She realized that these gestures, simple as they seemed, carried a love that was profound and real. The transformation in Amina's heart was gradual but undeniable. She began seeking out Rashid's company, asking for his advice on small household matters and sharing stories of her past, dreams, and hopes. Rashid, in turn, listened with patience and interest, offering gentle guidance when needed and always supporting her choices. Their conversations, once cautious and formal, became warm, open, and filled with laughter. Amina found herself looking forward to these moments, feeling a sense of connection that went beyond obligation or duty. One day, as they walked through the garden together, Amina noticed the way Rashid's eyes lit up at the sight of the blooming flowers. He spoke softly about how each plant required care and attention, drawing a parallel to life itself. "Everything grows slowly," he said. "If you care for it every day, it will bloom in its own time." Amina smiled, realizing that he was not just talking about the garden. His words carried a deeper meaning, reflecting the patience and dedication he had shown in their relationship. She felt a deep appreciation for his wisdom and the gentle strength in his character. Their bond continued to deepen with shared experiences and small acts of thoughtfulness. Rashid remembered important dates, brought her favorite snacks without being asked, and offered comfort when she faced moments of sadness or frustration. Amina began to notice that she could be herself around him, without pretense or fear of judgment. She could share her worries, dreams, and even her insecurities, and he would listen, offer support, and never make her feel small. This realization filled her with a quiet happiness, a recognition that love could exist in the simplest, most genuine forms. As their relationship grew stronger, the world around them began to notice the change as well. Neighbors and family members who had once doubted the match began to see the bond forming between the husband and wife. They noticed the way Rashid treated Amina with respect and care, and the way Amina responded with trust and warmth. While the whispers of the past still lingered, they could not hide the genuine connection that had developed between the two. Amina realized that love was not about what others thought. It was about what grew between two hearts through patience, understanding, and shared experiences. One evening, during a quiet dinner, Amina reflected on the journey they had traveled together. She thought about the days when she had felt trapped and resentful, the moments of doubt, and the fear that she had carried in her heart. Now, as she looked at Rashid, she saw a man who had never sought to dominate her or make her feel lesser. Instead, he had offered her respect, care, and the freedom to be herself. She realized that in doing so, he had earned her trust and affection in a way that no one else could. The true turning point came during a family celebration. Amina's parents were hosting a small gathering to honor a relative's achievement, and Amina was nervous about being in front of so many people. Rashid noticed her unease and quietly took her hand, offering a reassuring smile. Throughout the evening, he remained by her side, helping her navigate conversations, offering support when needed, and never making her feel overwhelmed or out of place. Amina felt a surge of gratitude and admiration, realizing that he cared for her happiness as much as his own. In the weeks that followed, Amina's feelings for Rashid continued to grow. She found herself thinking about him during the day, appreciating his small gestures, and looking forward to moments when they could share time together. She began to feel a sense of partnership, a recognition that they were building a life together not out of obligation, but through mutual respect, care, and understanding. The love that had once seemed impossible was now blossoming quietly, steadily, and beautifully. Amina also began to notice the ways in which Rashid's character influenced her own growth. His patience inspired her to be more understanding and forgiving. His humility reminded her of the value of simplicity and sincerity. His dedication encouraged her to pursue her own dreams with quiet determination. She realized that love was not just about feelings. It was about the way two people shaped each other's lives through care, support, and shared experiences. One afternoon, while reading a book in the garden, Amina glanced up to see Rashid tending the flowers. The sunlight highlighted the gentle expression on his face, and she felt a wave of affection wash over her. She realized that she no longer saw him as a servant or as someone beneath her social standing. She saw him as a man of integrity, kindness, and unwavering devotion. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future filled with happiness, partnership, and love, a future she had once thought impossible. As Part 4 progressed, their relationship reached a new level of intimacy, not physical but emotional. They shared dreams, supported each other through challenges, and celebrated small victories together. Amina felt a sense of safety, warmth, and joy in Rashid's presence. She realized that love had not arrived suddenly, but had grown patiently, quietly, and steadily until it had taken root in her heart. By the end of this part, Amina had fully embraced the reality of her life with Rashid. She saw the beauty in their ordinary days, the strength in their partnership, and the depth of his love. She recognized that happiness could be found in unexpected places, and that the love she had once doubted was now real, tangible, and enduring. Their bond, built on patience, trust, and genuine care, had blossomed into something extraordinary, proof that love could grow in the most unlikely circumstances, and that sometimes the heart finds joy where it least expects it. Amina's journey of resistance, doubt, and gradual acceptance had transformed into a journey of love, trust, and appreciation. She realized that Rashid's love was not defined by wealth, status, or grand gestures, but by the simple, consistent acts of care that had slowly, gently, and irresistibly won her heart. In him she had found not only a husband, but a companion, a friend, and a source of comfort and strength. Their lives continued, filled with quiet moments of joy, shared laughter, and a growing understanding of each other's hearts. The journey was far from over, but the foundation of love had been firmly established. Amina had discovered that the marriage she had once dreaded was now a source of warmth, trust, and profound happiness, a testament to the power of patience, kindness, and the quiet, enduring nature of true love. Amina had come a long way since the first days of her marriage. What had once seemed like a forced arrangement, a life full of uncertainty and frustration, had transformed into a journey of trust, understanding, and love. She now saw Rashid not only as a husband, but as a companion whose presence brought comfort, warmth, and stability. Their bond had grown slowly, patiently, and naturally, proving to her that love could indeed flourish in the most unexpected ways. The days in their home were filled with quiet joy and small moments of happiness. Mornings began with the soft sunlight streaming through the windows, the scent of fresh bread, and the gentle clatter of breakfast preparations. Rashid moved through the house with his usual calmness, performing his duties while keeping an eye on Amina, ensuring she was comfortable and cared for. Amina, in turn, found herself looking forward to these mornings, not just for the routine, but for the shared presence of someone who had become indispensable to her life. Life was not without its challenges. Occasionally, disagreements or misunderstandings arose, as they do in any marriage. But Amina had learned that love was not only about moments of happiness, it was about patience, compromise, and mutual respect. Rashid never forced his opinions or tried to dominate her decisions. He listened, considered her perspective, and acted in ways that respected her choices. Amina realized that this was one of the greatest expressions of love, respecting another person's autonomy and valuing their thoughts as much as your own. One afternoon, Amina faced a dilemma at her family home. Her father had fallen ill, and the household was filled with worry and tension. Amina felt torn between her responsibilities and the fear that she could not manage everything on her own. Rashid noticed her anxiety immediately. Without hesitation, he offered to accompany her to her father's home, to help manage the situation and provide support in any way he could. Amina felt a rush of gratitude, realizing that Rashid's care extended far beyond their home. He was willing to stand by her, share her burdens, and offer strength when she needed it most. During the visit, Rashid's quiet presence made all the difference. He helped arrange meals, tended to her father's needs, and even managed the younger children in the household so that Amina could focus on her family's concerns. She watched him move with grace and purpose, handling every task with patience and dedication. In that moment, Amina's heart swelled with affection and admiration. She realized that true love was not about grand declarations or public gestures, but about showing up when it mattered most, consistently and selflessly. The experience brought them even closer. On the way home, Amina glanced at Rashid and saw in his eyes a depth of care she had never fully appreciated before. It was not only about protecting her or providing for her needs. It was about understanding her, sharing her worries, and quietly lifting her burdens. Amina felt a profound sense of trust, a certainty that she could rely on him no matter the circumstances. This trust had been built slowly over time, through countless small acts of kindness, patience, and understanding, and now it formed the strongest foundation of their relationship. As weeks turned into months, Amina began to embrace her life fully with Rashid. She found joy in their ordinary days, laughter in shared conversations, and comfort in quiet moments together. The household, once filled with tension and unease, now radiated warmth and harmony. Amina realized that her initial resistance had given way to a deep appreciation for the man she once doubted. Rashid had shown her that love could grow quietly, patiently, and powerfully, transforming even the most unexpected circumstances into a source of happiness. Their relationship continued to strengthen through shared dreams and mutual support. Rashid encouraged Amina to pursue her aspirations, helping her create a small library in their home where she could teach neighborhood children in the afternoons. Amina felt a sense of fulfillment she had never known before, realizing that her marriage did not limit her dreams. It had, in fact, given her the support and encouragement to pursue them. She was able to combine her passion for education with her responsibilities, and Rashid stood beside her, always ready to assist, never overshadowing her efforts. The bond between them was also evident in the simple, everyday gestures that had become a hallmark of their life together. Rashid would leave fresh flowers on her table, prepare her favorite meals without being asked, and offer gentle words of encouragement when she faced challenges. Amina, in turn, learned to appreciate the depth of his love in these small, consistent acts. She understood that love was not about grand declarations, but about the steady, quiet presence that made life meaningful and secure. One evening, as they sat together in the garden, Amina reflected on how far they had come. She thought about the days when she had resisted the marriage, the moments of doubt and fear, and the growing realization that Rashid's heart was devoted to her in ways she had never imagined. She realized that happiness was not found in wealth, status, or societal approval, but in the genuine connection between two people who respected, valued, and cared for each other deeply. Amina also recognized the transformation within herself. She had learned patience, empathy, and the ability to see beyond appearances. She had discovered that true love required not only receiving care but also giving it freely, without expectation. She had grown stronger, wiser, and more compassionate, inspired by Rashid's unwavering dedication and humility. In embracing him fully, she had embraced a life of meaning, trust, and joy. Their love continued to deepen with time. They shared quiet evenings reading together, laughter over small mishaps, and celebrations of accomplishments both big and small. Amina found herself feeling safe in Rashid's presence, confident in the knowledge that he would always stand beside her. She began to see their partnership as a team, built on mutual respect, understanding, and shared values. Each day, she discovered new reasons to admire him, new ways to appreciate the depth of his character, and new opportunities to return the love he had shown her so selflessly. Neighbors and friends began to notice the transformation as well. Those who had doubted the marriage now admired the bond between Amina and Rashid. They saw a couple who respected and valued each other, whose relationship was built on genuine care rather than superficial appearances. Amina realized that love was not about proving something to the world. It was about building a life together, filled with trust, compassion, and shared happiness. The journey of their love reached its most profound moments in quiet, everyday life. Rashid would support Amina in her teaching endeavors, help organize community events, and offer guidance whenever she faced challenges. Amina, in turn, supported him in his aspirations, encouraged his quiet ambitions, and celebrated his small victories with heartfelt joy. They had become partners in every sense of the word, their lives intertwined in ways that were meaningful, enduring, and deeply satisfying. One afternoon, as they walked through the garden hand in hand, Amina realized that she had fallen completely in love with Rashid. It was not a sudden, fiery passion, but a deep, steady, and enduring affection built on months of shared experiences, mutual respect, and unwavering care. She smiled, thinking of the journey that had brought them to this point, from hesitation and doubt to trust, understanding, and love. Amina's parents, too, began to recognize the happiness in their daughter's life. They saw the joy in her eyes, the peace in her demeanor, and the respect with which Rashid treated her. Slowly, they began to accept that their decision, though controversial at first, had led to something truly extraordinary. They realized that love could take unexpected forms, and that true happiness was found not in societal approval, but in the genuine bond between two hearts. As the story reached its conclusion, Amina and Rashid continued to build their life together. Their home was filled with laughter, warmth, and mutual support. They faced challenges, of course, as every couple does, but they met them together, strengthened by the trust and love they had nurtured over time. Amina realized that the marriage she had once feared had become the source of her greatest happiness, a life filled with meaning, partnership, and love beyond what she had ever imagined. In the quiet moments, when the household was still, and the sun cast golden light across the rooms, Amina would often reflect on their journey. She thought about the days when she had resisted, the moments of doubt, and the small acts of kindness that had slowly transformed her heart. She understood that love was not always immediate, not always dramatic, But when nurtured with patience, respect, and care, it could grow into something beautiful and lasting. Rashid, too, would sit quietly beside her, sharing a smile, a word of encouragement, or a simple gesture of care. He never needed to prove his love. It was evident in every action, every moment of attention, and every small sacrifice he made to ensure her happiness. Together, they had built a life based on trust, understanding, and the kind of love that grows steadily, quietly, and powerfully, touching every part of life with warmth and joy. By the end of their story, Amina had fully embraced Rashid, and he had become not just her husband, but her closest companion, confidant, and partner in every sense. Their journey had begun with resistance and uncertainty, but had blossomed into a life of profound connection, mutual respect, and enduring love. Amina realized that happiness often comes in unexpected ways, that love can be found where it is least expected, and that the greatest joy is in building a life together with someone who truly cares, supports, and cherishes you. Together, Amina and Rashid had discovered the extraordinary in the ordinary, the beauty in patience, and the power of a love that grows not from obligation, but from the quiet, steady choices made every day to care for each other, respect each other, and nurture a bond that could last a lifetime.